It started with a warning scrawled on a rusted, forgotten road sign. Stop. Do not drive here after dark. Most people ignored it, thinking it was a prank or relic from some old local superstition. But for anyone who had ever driven the stretch known as Black Hollow Road, the warning wasn't a joke, it was a matter of life and death. The road twisted through dense forests, dipping into valleys where even moonlight struggled to penetrate. No houses lined the way. No towns marked the path. Just an endless stretch of cracked asphalt, trees clawing overhead, and shadows that moved like they were alive. Locals whispered about it in hushed tones about drivers who had entered at night and never returned. About headlights that vanished mid-road. About screams carried through the woods with no source to be found. Ethan had moved to the outskirts of Ashwood. Drawn by the promise of cheap rent and quiet nights, blissfully unaware of the road that sliced through the forest behind his new home. He was young, reckless, and thrill-seeking, the type who laughed at ghost stories. When he first saw the warning sign on Black Hollow Road, he scoffed, snapping a photo with his phone. "Who's afraid of a little darkness?" he muttered to himself, the wind rattling through the trees like whispered warnings. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and the woods grew dense and shadowed, he felt a twinge of unease. The air felt heavier here, like it was pressing down on him. And even his car engine seemed to hum nervously. His first night on Black Hollow Road was uneventful lore, so he thought. Driving slowly along the cracked asphalt, he noticed the trees pressing closer, their branches scraping the roof and hood. Moonlight flickered in patches, revealing sudden glimpses of figures standing at the edge of the road. They were tall, thin, unnervingly still. When he slowed to look, they vanished, leaving only the chill of something watching him. A shiver ran down his spine, but he shrugged it off. He had work the next morning, so he drove cautiously, but kept his skepticism intact. Then the disappearances began. A neighbor mentioned that someone from town had gone missing on that very road last week, leaving only tire tracks that ended abruptly in the forest. Another spoke of a couple who vanished, their car found days later. Windows fogged with condensation and scratches etched into the paint as though claws had tried to escape the vehicle. Ethan laughed nervously, claiming coincidence. But when he drove past the same stretch one foggy night, headlights of a car in the distance flickered, and then a shadow darted across the road, too fast, too precise, and the car disappeared without a sound. Panic clutched at him. The forest felt alive, pressing in from all sides. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, but curiosity, that dangerous ember, pushed him forward. One night, he decided to test the legend. Recording the drive on his phone, he aimed to prove the road was just folklore. He started the camera and drove carefully, noting the faint scratches on the asphalt, the eerie rustle of leaves, the sudden cold that seeped through the windows despite the heater. At first, nothing unusual happened. Then, about 10 miles in, he saw it. A figure, thin, grotesque, standing in the middle of the road, entirely black, featureless, except for eyes that glowed a cold, unnatural white. He slammed on the brakes, tires screeching, but the figure didn't move. Panic surged, and he swerved, only to see the figure now at the passenger side window, head tilting unnaturally, eyes locked on him. The car shook violently, as if gripped by invisible hands. Ethan's breath came in gasps, heart hammering in his chest. The radio flickered to static, then voices whispered his name, chilling and urgent. He turned the wheel sharply, trying to escape, but the road had changed. Black Hollow Road had stretched impossibly, curves appearing where none had existed. Trees bending unnaturally close, branches scraping the roof with claw-like precision. The figure appeared again, this time in the rear-view mirror. And Ethan realized with bone-deep horror that the more he drove, the closer it became. He tried reversing, but the car refused to obey. The engine roared and then died, leaving him in suffocating silence, except for the whispers and the sound of tires sinking into something soft, like mud, but it wasn't mud. Desperate, he unbuckled his seatbelt, intending to run, but the doors wouldn't open. The shadows outside pressed against the windows, forming shapes that weren't human tall, thin, stretching impossibly, eyes glowing. Mouths opening and closing as though trying to speak, but producing only static. Ethan pounded the dashboard, screaming, and then he saw the end. The headlights ahead, glowing white in the darkness, revealing nothing but more road, but the tire tracks and the snow or asphalt behind him had disappeared. The world was unrecognizable. He spent hours, or what felt like hours, trapped, moving through a twisted, mirrored version of the road where trees and shadows were multiplied, reflections bending reality. Panic turned to terror as he realized he was not just on Black Hollow Road. He was in it, consumed by it. Legends from the town's whispers surged in his mind. Drivers never truly escaped. Some appeared days later, wandering in shock, their eyes blank, muttering about shadows and figures that didn't belong in this world. Others never returned, and every story had the same chilling thread. They had seen something. Something that awaited in the night, hungry, patient, eternal, by dawn. Ethan's car was found at the side of the road by a local delivery driver. The door was slightly ajar, and the interior was frozen cold despite the heater. Inside, the dashboard camera was still recording. Static crackling over the faint whispering of a voice saying, "Drive forever." Ethan was gone. No tracks in the snow, no footprints in the dirt, only the faintest traces of scratches on the asphalt, like fingernails gouged into the road, leading into the forest, but never back out. Locals shook their heads in solemn silence, warning travelers again, do not drive here at night. But the road was hungry, and curiosity, like Ethan's, was irresistible. By the second night, the town of Ashwood buzzed with uneasy whispers about Ethan. Some said he had gotten lost in the woods. Others claimed they had seen his car moving on Black Hollow Road with no one inside, headlights flickering like dying eyes. But those who knew the legends understood the truth. Black Hollow Road did not let go. It waited, patient, for the next curious soul to drive after dark, for the next driver to ignore the warning signs that had been there for decades. Liam, Ethan's closest friend, refused to believe the supernatural. He was pragmatic, logical, and convinced that the whole town was steeped in superstition. When he heard about Ethan's disappearance, he packed a flashlight, a dash cam, and a sense of bravado that bordered on recklessness. It's just a road, he told himself, ignoring the hair raising along his arms. Curves, shadows, a bit of fog, nothing that can hurt anyone. Night fell, and Liam drove out to Black Hollow Road, tires crunching over the frosted gravel at the entrance. The warning sign greeted him, rusty, splintered, threatening. He laughed nervously, snapping a photo, and then drove forward. The road welcomed him like an open maw. The trees pressed close, their branches scratching the roof, wind howling like voices warning him to turn back. At first, everything seemed normal to normal. But the moment he passed the halfway marker, the air shifted. A cold, unnatural fog rolled in, thick and heavy, muffling the hum of his tires. Headlights reflected off something in the tree's figures, pale and elongated, watching. Liam slowed. The rearview mirror reflected movement where there should have been none. Shadows crawled along the asphalt, stretching and twisting, forming shapes that no human mind should ever witness. Panic stirred in his chest, but pride and disbelief rooted him in place. He needed proof. Then the first figure appeared directly on the road, standing impossibly still. Eyes glowed a cold, eerie white. Liam slammed on the brakes, skidding on frost-covered asphalt, but the figure did not flinch. In fact, it seemed to stretch taller, bending the shadows around it like it was made of the night itself. He tried to reverse, but the car refused to obey. The engine growled as if alive, and the tires sank into the asphalt like it was thick tar. A whisper tickled his ears, faint at first, then louder, more insistent. Drive forever. Drive forever. Liam's hands shook violently on the wheel. Every instinct screamed to run, to abandon the car and flee, but the road seemed endless. Every turn, every curve, led him deeper into a twisted mirror of reality. Trees warped, branches reaching in impossible angles, scraping the car like claws. Shapes moved in the fog figures, with no faces, just glowing eyes, crawling closer, as if hungering for him. The dashcam recorded everything, the flickering lights, the shadows moving unnaturally, the road that seemed to split and merge with itself. Liam wanted to scream, but sound was swallowed by the fog, leaving only the relentless whispers echoing in his mind. Hours passed, or what seemed like hours. Time on Black Hollow Road was no longer measured by minutes or hours, but by fear and survival. Liam's body cramped, exhaustion pressing against him, but he couldn't stop. Every attempt to turn back led him to the same point, the same stretch of road where the first figure appeared. Then he noticed tire tracks behind him, tracks that weren't his own. Fresh and deep, cutting across the road in impossible angles. Something was following him, keeping pace despite the fog, despite the twists and turns. The first attack came silently. Shadows erupted from the trees, wrapping around the car, scraping along the hood and windshield, clawing at the doors. Liam fought to keep control, but the tires hit a patch of black eyesore. Maybe it wasn't ice. The car lurched violently, spinning out of control, and the fog thickened into an impenetrable wall. Shapes pressed against the windows, faces melting into nightmare visages. Liam tried the radio. Static, then whispers, "Don't stop. Don't stop." Or join him. A horned, monstrous silhouette appeared in the corner of the windshield, impossible to focus on fully, only glimpsed in flashes. The road beneath the tires warped, cracked, elongating endlessly. Desperation fueled action. Liam unbuckled his seatbelt, threw the door open, and tumbled into the snow beside the car. But as he tried to run, the road itself seemed alive. The asphalt rippled, shadows crawling across it like tendrils, stretching for him. Figures emerged from the fog, tall, thin, featureless, eyes glowing like coals, fingers elongated into claws. He ran, feet slipping in snow and ice, but every step led him back to the road. Back to the figures, back to the inescapable nightmare. Panic consumed him, mind fracturing with each whisper and shadow. He stumbled into what appeared to be a bend in the road, only to find the same scene repeating. Trees, fog, shadows. Tires of another car lay embedded in the snow, but there was no vehicle, only tracks that led into the forest and never returned. Liam felt his sanity slipping as he realized the truth. Black Hollow Road was a trap, a predator, a living entity that devoured the unwary. Legends were not lies. They were warnings, desperate attempts to keep people alive. And yet, here he was, caught, an unwilling prey. Hours or maybe days passed as Liam ran, chased, and circled endlessly. Hunger, cold, and exhaustion clawed at him. But worse was the knowledge that he was being watched. Eyes glowed from the fog, whispers taunted him, shadows reached for him. And then he saw Ethan, standing on the road ahead, eyes blank, expression empty. He raised a trembling hand, pointing at Liam. The whispering grew louder. "Drive. Drive. Join us." Liam realized with horror that Ethan had become part of the road, a spectral warning, a vessel of its will. Liam ran, screaming into the void, but the road never ended. The horned silhouette appeared again, taller than any man, claws scraping the asphalt, eyes locked onto him with ancient hunger. Liam understood fully in that moment. Black Hollow Road did not just kill. It consumed, it claimed, it transformed. Those who entered after dark became part of the road. Shadows in the fog, whispers in the static. Figures standing at the edge of the forest to lure the next victim by dawn. The town discovered Liam's car abandoned on the side of Black Hollow Road, engine cold, doors locked from the inside. No footprints in the snow led away. The dash cam recorded static and whispers. Faint images of shadows twisting along the trees, and a final, unmistakable flash of Ethan's blank. Bedden by our otters. Biden reputum. The locals shook their heads, murmuring the familiar warnings. Do not drive here at night. Never drive here after dark. But the road waited, patient as ever, hungry for the next curious soul. And the sign at the entrance, rusted and faded, whispered the same truth. Stop. Do not drive here at night. And in the shadows beyond the headlights, figures waited. Always waiting. Always waiting.